All right.
All right. We are live.
Yay.
I don't know if we can share right away. Let me refresh this. We can share right away. Let me. Let's back over. There it is.
Nice.
Stand by. We're sharing.
You gotta fix that. Can you edit that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Stand by. Hold on a sec. Sorry about this. As usual, it's not. Facebook is messing up. I don't know if I can edit that.
You click on it, see.
Ta-ta.
Right.
Okay. And sorry about this. It's Facebook is acting up again, so I got to do a couple of things here. And as soon as that pops up there, I'm going to click off Facebook.
Okay.
This is what behind the scenes looks like. Yeah. All right, you guys about ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
We're ready.
All right, sorry about that.
No worries.
I went over to Facebook and it was like spinning and spinning. I'm like, oh, here we go. All right, so we're going to do some the intro music and stuff, and we'll be ready to go.
Okay.
All right, so I am hitting record right now.
Hit record.
So the recorder is going.
Can you see the end when you look through my eyes? How long's it been? Shouldn't come as a surprise.
Welcome to the 222 Paranormal Podcast with your host, Jen and Joe.
Welcome, everybody, to the show. Once again, we are here in the studio.
As you can see, we are actually doing a live video.
Yes.
We have Miranda and Kris from the historic Scott County Jail down in Huntsville, Tennessee. Welcome, welcome,
Welcome to
welcome.
the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Excited
Thanks
to
for
have
having
you
us.
here. Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So
Brain fart already.
it happens every time, right? So tell us, this is really exciting because the jail you guys have just opened, correct?
Correct.
And is it available for publics to come in already?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So kind of like a little bit of a historical background, if you will. So Miranda and I met, obviously, as you know, a few years ago, and we just really hit it off as best friends. And for a while, we've been talking about starting a business wrapped around the paranormal, obviously, because that's what we love. Miranda's Ghost Biker, and then myself as Soul Sisters. And so we really just had this opportunity kind of fall into our laps earlier this year. The historic Scott County Jail is in Scott County, which is where Miranda is from. And So earlier this year, we approached the town, the mayor and the alderman, and asked if we could open this group that we called History, Highways, and Haunts LLC inside of the jail. So what we do is we offer general admission tours where you can come in and tour for the day. We offer flashlight tours, paranormal investigations. So really a really good mix of history and paranormal. And so yeah, we opened in September, and it's really kind of taken off. We're still getting the word out there. But what we've found so far is that people really enjoy what we've been doing.
Yeah, we've been open. We're coming up on our 12th week of being open, and we just had our 16th paranormal investigation team since we've been open, and so we felt like that's pretty good. Averaging at least an investigation a weekend, if not more. And so, we're constantly adding new exhibits to the jail. We actually just went and picked up a really cool exhibit from the TBI here today that we're going to be putting in. So we're constantly adding things to the Crime and Punishment Museum, and adding a lot of interesting things. This past week, we've announced some pretty cool things. We're having a historic ghost walk and flashlight tour here during the month of December to it's really kind of cool because the town is, they've got this amazing Christmas light decoration there in the town mall. And so we were going to be able to use that, walk through, share the Christmas lights, the Christmas spirits, and go in and tell some of the history. And then also we did just announce our 2022 paranormal investigation schedule. We've got two.
That's exciting.
Yeah, we've got 2 weekends open in December right now, and that people can book for 2021. But then that will close down, and we opened up the first 8 months of next year. Those are already out there for people to book.
Let's talk a little bit about the actual physicality of the building. Can you tell us how many floors, how big is it, how many cells are in the jail? Let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So
made up too.
So the jail was built in 1904, and it's made out of locally mined sandstone, which is 5 by 4 by 3 feet thick. So it's very, very thick walls. Mm-hmm. It's 3 stories. The bottom story is known as the jailer's quarters. So in the earlier years, that's where the families and stuff lived inside the jail. And then on the second floor, that's where the trustees are, as well as the kitchen. And then the third floor was built in 1922 after a fire, and that's the maximum security area.
Oh, great. Now, was this jail predominantly male, or was there male and female incarcerated in there?
There were both. So as Miranda said, it was built in 1904. It was in operation until 2008, and it was a county jail, obviously. So the predominant inmate population was male, but it did hold females. It was designed to hold about 50 inmates. During some of the era where it was overcrowded, it was not uncommon to have up to 150 inmates in there to one jailer. So there was a lot of overcrowding that took place. And then in the 1960s, they did build another facility close by because they felt that they needed to expand. So they moved the inmates to that new facility for a while, but they kept escaping. So they moved them all back into our jail, and then they stayed there until 2008. So it was in operation for over 100 years. And then it sat vacant from 2008 until 2017. In 2017, the county of Scott County gave it to the town of Huntsville, and Huntsville applied for a tourism grant. So they got the grant, and they put in air conditioning units, they put in windows, they repainted, kind of made it a little bit fresh, if you will. And then from 2017 until this year, it said vacant again. And so then we came along and opened it, and we really feel that we've given it new life, if you will. Yeah. As Miranda said, we've got a lot of exhibits there for law enforcement appreciation, crime and punishment, predominantly from Scott County, but really, crime and punishment nationwide. And we got a great gift shop. We've got a lot of historical artifacts, a lot of historical stories. So we feel we're really proud of what we've done so far.
Yeah, I'm proud of you guys too, the way that it really turned out.
It's a lot.
It's still going. I mean, it's still growing with the different exhibits that you're getting at. And, it's always something different. But how did you, okay, now I know about the history of it, but how did you actually decide we want to do something in that building? did you know about it? I know, Miranda, you said you were from that area.
Yes,
Did
that's
you know about it before, or?
yeah. So essentially, so I grew up there and moved away from that area in '98 when I went off to college. And but that jail, I mean, it's as you said, it has quite a presence to it. I mean, it's shaped like a castle, and everybody knows in that area knows about the historic Scott County Jail. And so I can remember when I was a kid going to it's there in the square. It's just down from the library. And I can remember as a kid going to the library and seeing the prisoners kind of hanging out of the bars there, and really just thinking, wow, this is such an interesting building. I wonder what it looks like inside. And so after it ended up shutting down, that's what you would see a lot on Facebook and other places from people, wanting to know what it was like inside, wanting to know, what they were going to do with it and everything. And so, yeah, essentially, I mean, we, like Christy had said earlier, when we created History, Highways, and Haunts, we were really looking as more of a travel sort of business, and the historic Scott County Jail kind of as more of a stop along that travel. And so as I was talking to one of my friends, because throughout the years that it had sat vacant, I had heard different stories about what people were bidding and trying to use it for. And so I really didn't know at that time. I thought that it was in the works and the plans for something. And so when I was talking to a dear friend, he told me, he said, it's still sitting vacant. They're not doing anything with it. So I went to Christy and I was like, what do you think about this? And so we really researched it, sat and really came up with what we felt was a good, solid business plan. And when we reached out to the mayor, I mean, he was, he has been our biggest cheerleader, and he has been so encouraging and helpful with everything. And so when we went to him and we did our initial planning, and he said, okay, we want you to come back, do your presentation. As we were talking to him, and he'll tell you this whenever he's doing different speaking events, that, he had he knew that this place was destined for something special and something really cool. He just didn't know what. And so, because of our plan in making it accessible to the community and also making it accessible to the paranormal community, he was on board from the start. And, so we just really sort of knew, and I was the first person to investigate this location back in 2014. And so I knew there was paranormal activity. Okay. And then throughout the years, a couple other investigators had come into it. And then after Christy and I ended up taking it over, we were having folks reaching out to us who had worked there, who were either past jailers, dispatchers, other folks who were officers within the jail, that were talking about, we were experiencing these things while the jail was still in operation. Wow. So it's really cool to be able to see this progression and know that this jail has many interesting stories to share, and that we're just working as, the mouthpiece to be able to, put these stories out there.
I think, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Kris.
And one of the interesting things about, kind of how we approach this is, we wanted to have the history be the predominant factor in what we're doing. So, everything that we do, from the marketing to the advertising and such, it's really historic driven. The paranormal is kind of implied in a lot of what we do, but it's not really the forefront facing marketing scheme in what we do. And that's really to bring the community into this as well. Those that might not have an interest in the paranormal, but really do want to embrace that historical element. And so I think what really makes this an interesting partnership is because, Miranda does have that marketing and advertising background. I've got the law enforcement and the business background. And, to be able to merge those two from also a paranormal standpoint, where we know what paranormal investigators like and what they need in an investigation, I really do think it was just almost a trifecta of perfectness, if you will, for us to be able to take this jail and really do something special with it.
Yeah. And too, true crime is hot right now. It's one of those things. Sure. Everybody loves true crime. And so we really have something for everyone. I mean, it's amazing when we've been able to sit down and really go. I mean, and when you guys come down and check it out, you're actually going to be quite, not just amazed, but interested in the history that we have up, because we do crime right in Scott County. I don't know if that's a compliment or, but we do crime right. And so, so we have some interesting true crime in there. And it's interesting when people come in, because a lot of the locals and stuff, they'll see that and they'll say, oh, I remember when this happened. Or there's a lot of people who are related to the people who worked in the jail. And so, so we got something for everyone, whether if they're a true crime lover, if they love the paranormal, or if they're, just someone that, is really into history. We've got it all there.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
When did it close again? I'm sorry.
It closed to inmates in 2005, and then they used it for dispatch and record storage up until 2008. 2008 is when they officially closed it, and it just really started to sit vacant after that.
Okay. So, and Miranda, you went in and investigated in 2014.
I did.
Was there any different type of activity they went on back then, seeing that it was close to when it closed, that you know of?
Well, this would have been probably right within the midpoint, because it closed in 05 and 08, and us coming in at 2021. So I really was able to hit it in the midpoint. And it was when I was a member of a team, and we had gone in there, and it was very much in a dilapidated state at that point. And so we have seen a change in activity. I know one of the places that really comes to mind whenever I think about that investigation was the drunk tank area. Okay. We have 2 drunk tanks down on the first floor, and those were obviously used as drunk tanks, but they were also used as administrative segregation or solitary. If the inmates, if the inmates on the upper level in maximum security, if they couldn't get along with general population, they would be brought down there. Or if it was an inmate that was brought in that was a risk to themselves or someone else, there were some of them that were put in those. And so they are now our bathrooms, our public restrooms. But we always encourage people to investigate there, because on that particular night, in one of the main drunk tanks, I had captured some really great disembodied voices, as well as some just real intense sobbing. And it was a female. And so that's one of the things that I captured there on that first night. And we've had a lot of different investigators who have experienced things down in the drunk tanks as well.
Oh,
now, I was watching a video from one of the investigators that investigated there, and they mentioned something about that drunk tank and a woman. Mm-hmm. They mentioned that she was in distress, and they didn't find out until they saw, was it blood coming from under the door?
Right. Yes, there was a lady who, from some of the stories, because a lot of these stories we get from inmates who had been there at the jail. There was a lady who on Razor Day, she had smuggled a razor. And so she was being disruptive up in maximum security. They did end up bringing her down, and they didn't know that she was proceeding to cut herself until they did see blood coming out from under the door. She did not pass away there, but she was taken to the hospital, where she did pass away after that.
Did you say Razor Day?
Yes. Well, the females, they would get, depending on how long they were in there and their status, that sort of thing, they would be given, a razor to
shave their legs.
Yeah.
Instead of braiding them.
Yeah, we weren't barbaric,
What?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's been a long day. So, is there any particular spirits that have come forth? Like, do you feel like maybe there's any prisoners or guards that are still lingering around in there that you have encountered?
We do. There's been a lot of, historical issues that have happened in the jail or around the jail. In 1925, there was one of the sheriff R.D. Ellis. He was actually shot and killed right outside the front door when he was bringing an inmate into the jail. There's been several lynchings from the jail where mobs have infiltrated the doors and went up and got prisoners from the maximum security level and took them out and hung them and or shot them. So there's those kind of reports and stories, factual stories that have happened happened throughout the jail's history. And so we do believe that those spirits are what we're encountering.
Okay.
There was also some Native American influence around the county as well. So that could be what is really causing the spirits to linger. There's a river right behind the jail. The entire jail is made out of sandstone, as Miranda said. So those type of elements really hold that energy in. We do know that there's a lot of predominantly male spirits that are hanging around. As Miranda said, she did capture a woman sobbing, but most of what we encountered have been from male spirits. We captured disembodied voices. We hear footsteps. There was one night where Miranda was closing up after paranormal investigation team had left. So this was about 3:30 in the morning, and she heard some humming on the stairwell. And to access all of the floors, we only have one stairwell, which is in the back of the jail. So she heard this humming, and the spirit cleared its throat and proceeded to hum further. And so we have a security camera in our gift shop, and that's where Miranda or I stay when paranormal investigators are there. So on the security camera, you see her come into the gift shop to get her laptop bag to leave. And as she walks by the camera, and this is just after she heard the hum, as she walks by the camera, you hear a male's voice say, "There she is," and another voice behind it said, "Not so loud next time." And and that's what we're finding. A lot of the spirits in this jail are extremely intelligent. They're responsive to what we're doing, to what we're saying. They're responding to articles that we read, that we've hung on the wall that we read. It's unlike any other location that I've investigated as far as intelligent hauntings.
Yeah. They'll address what you're wearing.
Mm-hmm.
They'll talk about things that are going on around. We had a flashlight tour. We had several in October, and on the very first flashlight tour that we had, we always tell the people, if you hear something, if you see something, let us know, and be aware of your surroundings. And so we had gone up onto the third floor in maximum security, and we had done a little small session in the women's cell / trustee cell up there. And so as we had wrapped it up, we were getting ready to go downstairs. And so what we would do is we would allow the people to take about 10 to 15 minutes to kind of walk around and look at everything in the light. And so as we were getting ready to walk downstairs, one of the older boys of the family that was there, he walked around the corner and he scared his mom. And they came face to face. She screams, and all of a sudden the obelisk says, "Surprise." And so, it's not uncommon. One of the paranormal teams, same kind of situation happened. They had a picture flung off the wall. And right after that happened, the obelisk said jumped, because the guys jumped. So the obelisk, the SB7, the portal, the different tools that have word banks, they're very, very good to use there. And they will, like I said, they will address what's going on around you. They want you to know that not only are they intelligent, but they're also aware.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask you. One of the questions is if the spirits recognize the equipment that we use. And that's amazing that they can actually understand the equipment and know how to use it, seeing that they never saw stuff like that before.
Right.
And when you're saying that they actually can see what you're doing and what you're putting on the walls, that blows my mind, that because we can never figure out if they can see us or not, or if they just hear us like we hear them, And
that's a great observation, Joe. Miranda and I, when we first opened, when we first got the keys, we got the keys about a month and a half before we actually opened. So, while we were cleaning up, we would talk to them. We would do investigations. We'd sit up there a couple hours and just talk to them, show them the equipment that we had, kind of explain to them what we were doing, explain to them that we would have people come in and try to interact with them. So, we, not so much of an education process, if you will, but we have tools that they are, I think, getting more familiar with. And it's what's very interesting, and I'll address one of the questions here in the comment, is the paranormal activity, as Miranda said before, it's always been associated with this jail, even when it was in operation. So after we opened, I mean, we had sworn law enforcement officials and, dispatch operators come in and say, when I worked here, this happened, or we experienced this, or we saw shadow figures. We had inmates that said, we experienced this. There were at least 3 of them who requested to be transferred to Brushy Mountain State Penitentiary because the building creeped them out so much. So, that's what's fascinating. And through this, what we're also finding is the paranormal investigation teams that have come in, they've all been great teams, and they're all teams that are driven by paranormal research, right? They're in this for what we consider the right reasons. And almost every single one has experienced something, and that experience has allowed us to get more knowledge about the history of the location. We've been getting names, we've been getting stories, we've been getting dates of things that we didn't know about. But then when we go back and research, we're like, oh man, that was this. And so that to us is extremely important with what we're doing, but extremely exciting also.
Yeah. And, to kind of go on what Christy was saying and kind of share an experience that we're really looking into right now. We made an announcement this past week that we've got a new book that we're offering in our gift shop. And the book is about one of those big events that took place here at the jail. It was the Cold Wars there, and it was also about the lynching of Jerome Boyett and Harvey Winchester. And so we actually got an early copy of this book, Christy and I. And so we had the author come in, he gave us a book, and we hadn't had a chance to look at it or anything. And so we were waiting on a paranormal investigation team to get there. We were kind of thumbing through it, looking at it. And Christy made the comment, she said, oh, this is written in the in the character of Anvil Clemens. And so we just kind of shrugged or whatever, and we put the book away and was waiting on the team. Well, the team came, and then the very next night, another team came. And so I was sitting there in the gift shop while the team was there. And of course, we always tell them, we're like, anything you get, just really take note of it. Take note of your surroundings, take note of what you're doing, and keep note, because we have been getting some interesting things that fall in line with some of the history of the jail. And so as the team was leaving, the gentleman that is the team leader, he came to me and told me a few things I got. And he said, we did in the front part of the jail get the name or the word anvil. We got it twice. Wow. And I said, that's really interesting, because I went over and I told him, I said, I want to take note of that, and I'm going to reach out to someone. And so the very next night, I reached out to the author of the book, and I said, the team that was here had gotten the word anvil. And I said, what is the significance of this? And so he reached out to me the next day, and he said he read it, because I messaged him kind of late. He read it, and he said he wasn't able to sleep the rest of the night. Oh, and it literally gave him cold chills, because he said that the guy Anvil in the book, it is not, it is a nickname of this individual. It was actually the jailer who was on duty that night that Jerome Boyett was taken out of the jail, and that he had been beaten so bad that he said 3 different people had said he was beaten like an anvil. And so Anvil became the guy's name. So this team had, even if this team had gone and researched everything about the jail, they wouldn't have known that, because the author is actually a relative of the folks involved in this that happened at the jail. And so so there was no way to know the book hadn't come out. So it's just really interesting that we were able to capture that. And so we've been taking this information that we get, and it's just fascinating that these teams are getting things that's able to help put the pieces of these stories together.
Yeah. And I know we've talked before about how places that have investigators come in all the time, they don't keep like a journal of what happened, so you can compare notes, because there's so many different teams, and we know that we don't get activity every single time we go in there, or in a place, I should say, not there, but I always say keep a journal of what you're doing. Talking to the owners, of course, some do, some don't, you don't know, but it's just so cool, because then like you can go back and say, yeah, this was this person, and
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
coming up every time.
Yeah.
Every time a team comes through, they want to talk to them or something. You know.
Mhm.
Yeah, we've been trying to look at that. Not only we talk to the teams beforehand, we try to find out certain things because, and we're starting to find certain trends as well.
Mhm.
You know, versus size of team. We've had solo female investigators. We've had teams of small groups. We've had very large groups come in. We've had teams that come in that have law enforcement backgrounds. Those seem to really get a lot of activity because of their techniques. And then just the wide array of equipment. So we've really been trying to, and we encourage the teams, if you get anything, like I said, don't feel like it's insignificant, because a lot of the small, subtle things are things that have been interesting pieces of puzzles that we've been able to take.
Mhm.
Now, have you guys, when you were doing your cleanup of the jail and getting it ready, did you find anything unique or interesting? Maybe something hidden somewhere?
And nice
Something good,
segue, nice
something
segue there,
good.
Jen. As I said
Almost
before,
like I wrote down.
Yeah,
that's a great segue. So, almost from the start, we were hearing things. Like I said, we were finding interesting things. One of the most unexplainable things that started happening was we started having things go missing. So it's really started. The second floor of the jail has the kitchen in it, and there's the remnants of a dumbwaiter system that would take the food to all 3 levels of the jail. And so that section that was there, it has a steel lip that goes around it. And Miranda is extremely meticulous about cleanliness. So she was under there with a shop vac, and she was vacuuming around underneath this lip, and a razor blade that had been taped there, I guess contraband, fell. Nobody knew it was there. So here comes this razor blade. It fell. I wasn't there at the time. So she called and said, I found this razor blade. This is pretty cool. This is where I found it. And I said, well, just keep it up there because I want to see it.
Mhm.
So there's this table in the kitchen where we had our cleaning supplies. And so that's where she put the razor blade. So when I came in the next day, I went upstairs and I hollered down and said, Miranda, it's not here. And so she comes up and she's like, I laid it right here. And I said, well, it's gone. She and I are the only two that had the keys to the building.
Wow.
So the razor blade is completely gone. I haven't even seen it yet. It's gone. And so a day later, we went to Ace Hardware and we got some supplies. One of those supplies was a pair of red-handled scissors. So we used them for a day or two, and we put them on that table in the kitchen with the cleaning supplies. And we came in one morning and the scissors are gone. They're complete. We have not seen them since, beginning of September. And so they've just been missing. And so we told that story to the investigators, and a paranormal team actually captured an EVP when they asked, what are the owners of the jail looking for? They got an EVP that said scissors. And and then after that, Miranda's paint scraper went missing. And that's when she put her foot down. She said, she yelled out to the building and said, stop taking our stuff, give us the paint scraper back. And so she was on the second floor when this happened, and she later found the paint scraper on the 3rd floor.
Yeah, I hadn't even been up there that day.
We hadn't been up there.
So it's interesting. I mean, anything, our sharps, it's, our sharps end up missing. And I've gone on different locations and heard different people who, either do the paranormal or the location owners say, this stuff ends up missing. And I always kind of, you just misplaced it. It's easy to do, but I wouldn't have believed it until it started happening to us. And we've even lost, and I don't even know how this happened, but we even lost a full sheet of glass that went on a 11 by 14 frame. And because when we were putting the museum together for consistency purposes, Kris was painting the frames that we had black. And so we essentially had this assembly line where she had everything sitting right there in a row. She would give me a frame and a piece of glass, and I was framing the items. And we get to this last frame that she had sitting there. Actually, it wasn't even the last. It was like right in the middle of the frames, and we can't find it. I don't know how a sheet of 11 by 14 inch glass disappears like that, but we can't find it.
And we have one frame without glass.
Yeah, it's the Richard Ellis frame.
It's going to be so interesting where that's discovered. It's almost like a little hidden, what do you call it?
Little scavenger hunt.
That's that kind of thing. I have COVID brain. But yeah, so that's amazing because that would be the natural instinct for a prisoner to see that opportunity that there is something they could use it as a weapon and just come in and get it.
And it's interesting because that team that ended up getting the scissors EVP, that was actually our first team that came in. So we're finding that these situations, and we share that story. If anyone watches where someone's doing live or watches a podcast, they'll know. But again, this team was the very first team. They were the first people to hear about this. So it's not like they could have heard it and made that up. So so it's really interesting. Like I said, they're aware. They know.
Now, did you find any hidden rooms or areas in this room?
No, we
we
want to so badly, but no, unfortunately not. There are two sections that where they put because up until 2017 there was no air conditioning and there was no heat. The building was exposed to the elements because all the windows were the bars. There was no glass. So in 2017, that's when they put the glass in and the air handlers in. So there is a section of the third floor that there's a locked door that we really just haven't had time to investigate, but we will be going in there. But that's where all the air handlers are. So we're not letting teams or the public go in for safety reasons. But we will be investigating that and doing some different things. But, no, as far as hidden rooms, no, unfortunately.
I'm guaranteing those red handle scissors are in that room. I lock doors. I will put dinner on there.
We're constantly finding things though, as far as like, we found out where the laundry chute is. We didn't know. And so, and just different areas, we're finding out the uses for some of these, because what's interesting about this is the fact that with each administration there in the jail, the rooms did change. So, just downstairs in our jailer's quarters, when you walk into our main museum room, that was where the jailer and his family lived, but then it was also an area where they stored the evidence. It was also during the last couple administrations, it was a women's cell, and so we're finding that some of these rooms have 5 and 6 different uses, and so just depending on how you actively investigate those rooms, you may get something that seems off base, but when you learn that, this room was originally not only just the sheriff's office, but it was also medical. It was also the original kitchen. Once you start finding all of that out, then, the responses make sense. And so we're still, because of its 100 years of existence, we're still finding out different rooms and their uses. So, so it's cool every day. It's, something that, never thought I would be doing, but just so interesting and love it so much.
Yeah.
Now, have any of the other businesses or buildings around this come forward to you guys and say, hey, we're having some activity over here, or curious about what you guys were doing as you were opening it?
We've had a few. The way we're situated at the end of the town square, we're kind of off of the beaten path, if you will. What is interesting, I'll tell you 2 stories quickly, is right across the street is the 911 center. So they're that is manned 24/7 because they take all the 911 calls from the county. And so when we pull up during the morning, we routinely see the dispatchers out there. They're taking their break, their smoke break or whatever. And so we'll talk to them, about what happened last night and all that other stuff. And so since we've opened, there's been several times where they will come up and say, hey, you're not going to believe what we heard last night. So a couple weeks ago, Miranda was closing up after a paranormal investigation team had left. And so she locked up and she left. And I guess the 911 dispatcher, about 30 minutes later, she was out taking a smoke break and heard a scream from the 3rd floor of the jail. She said it was crystal clear. It was a blood-curdling scream that came from the 3rd floor. Before we even opened, they came and told us that before we even opened, they were seeing lights inside. And this is an abandoned building. They were seeing lights turn on inside. They were seeing shadow figures. So we've had those reports. And another interesting story is I just moved to the town, right? So I've been looking for some property and such to live and do some other things. So it was Miranda, myself, my father, and my realtor. We went and looked at this building that's vacant. It's right across the street from the jail as well, and probably about 30 yards from the jail. And it used to be an oncology center. It's a larger office space. And so, my dad, we're all walking around, we're talking to the realtor and everything. So we'd walked in and we had, kind of looked through it. And so we're standing there just talking, and we all hear a woman go, hello, like somebody had walked in the door wanting to know what we're doing. So we heard a woman say hello. So myself, Miranda, and the realtor, we all walked around the wall, and there was nobody there. And the realtor, she went white. She said,
"Did she know what you?"
Yeah, she knew what we did.
Okay.
And even my dad, he was like, well, we all heard that. And I said, yeah, we did. And so, like I said, she went white, and she's like, what was that? So we do think that there's other spirits around, not just in our jail, but it's an extremely interesting little town for sure.
Yeah, and that area right there would have been just down from the area where Sheriff Ellis was shot as well, because the person who shot Sheriff Ellis did shoot him sniper ambush style from the back. And it is one of Scott County's unsolved murders. So yeah, I mean, it was in that area. So it would not be uncommon for other places in that area. Yeah, most people, they know what we do. Like I said, we do the history is what we put out there, but they know we do the investigation. And it's so great to talk to these wonderful 911 operators, because they always tell us, they've told us on several different occasions that they're like, we come in and we watch to see what videos you all post and see what's going on over there. So yeah, it's really cool.
They're a great bunch of ladies. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's breathing new life into the community as well as preserving the history. So, I'm sure the people in the town are, one, curious, and then kind of proud of it, and they're all going to come in. Now, have you had any former prisoners come back and come in and maybe give you some of their life behind bar story?
We've had former inmates, we've had former jailers come in. As I said, the dispatchers have come in, and they've all given us stories. We had a gentleman come in whose mother was actually born in the jail, because her dad was the Sheriff Lloyd, and so she was born in the jail. So he's actually part of our audio tour. We have a very cool audio tour that you can take throughout the jail. There's stops in all the different rooms, and you can hear about the rooms and what happened in there. So he actually helped me narrate one of those stops. So it's not uncommon at all for people to come in during the day and just say, I stayed 3 nights here or 6 nights here, or my brother was here.
They talk about their family that was here. Yeah.
And
I was in the drunk tank again.
And that's what I'm finding, because of this it is a county jail. Everybody has some association with it, whether your dad was a jailer or a sheriff, or you had a family member who was an inmate for a couple of nights, or you yourself stayed a few nights in there. Everybody has a connection to this. And so that is what we're really trying to highlight for the community. We have found that most of our visitors to date have been from outside of the county. We're really trying to bring that county and that community influence back in, as far as getting them in and really touring the jail, because I think a lot of them really think that, I'm just going to walk through a jail, but we've done so much more than that. We've got exhibits, we've got stories, we've got newspaper articles. So most people spend about 45 minutes to an hour walking through this little 3-story jail. So, for us, we're really proud of it. And we're really hoping to extend that to the community, that they can come in and appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, and just to echo off that, the county has an amazing history, not just with the crime and punishment, but everything going back to how the county was started with, General Winfield Scott. Jesse James, he visited the Huntsville. He was not in the jail, but he visited Huntsville and actually ran a business there and hid out there for a little while. The Civil War, there was a lot of guerrilla warfare there during the Civil War, and during that time, they actually seceded from Tennessee, and it was supposed to be for just about 48 hours. They were their own state, the free and independent state of Scott, and they actually didn't end up rectifying that until Was it 86 or 88?
1986.
Okay, 1986.
Wow.
And so, so there's this amazing rebellion history. And then, you know, Senator Howard Baker, he's from Scott County. We've had a lot of dignitaries come to Scott County, everyone from Andrew Johnson back during the Civil War to President Reagan during Senator Baker's time. And so there's just this, and, you know, even today, Arzo Carson, he was the longest running director of the TBI, and he's from Scott County, and then just some of the cases that he worked on. So there's a lot of history in this place, and there's so much pride in the area. And so our goal is to be able to highlight that, you know, highlight these judges, highlight these sheriffs, these detectives, these, you know, folks that were in the jail, even some of these inmates, you know, because a lot of them have some crazy, interesting stories. And we're just really working hard to try to get that out. I mean, we even have an exhibit for the local newspaper because, you know, there's 2 newspapers from the town. And we're working to try to, and they've been around for so long. So we're trying to highlight those folks, everyone that's made Scott County what it is when it comes to crime and judgment and that sort of thing. So I think people, you know, when they come in, they're really surprised at just how much we have and, you know, and so much more that we're adding.
Yeah.
So it's something we're very excited about. And we do wish more of the local community would come in. And that's also kind of part of what we're trying to do with this ghost walk that we mentioned at the beginning. It was essentially something that we weren't going to start until the spring, but we saw this really cool opportunity to be able to kind of combine it with Christmas and the beautiful Christmas light display that they have out there. And so just within this small square area of the mall, which is what it's called out there, we have enough to fill a 2-hour walk talking about all of this, you know, the coal miner history, the soldiers, you know, and then the flashlight tour of the jail. So really, you know, there's a lot. This, as Christy has said before, it's like it may be a small town, but it really packs a punch when it comes to history.
Yeah, that just sounds like there's just so much in one tiny area. So like,
It
you
is.
know, if our listeners and your viewers are, you know, coming down there, make a whole weekend of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like spend your tourism money, go to the jail, go to the local restaurants, you know, shop local, you know, and maybe go down for the ghost walk. I think it would be really, really amazing if we could get down there, Joe.
I know.
We got to do it.
I was
Come
off
on.
for 2 weeks and I still haven't gone anywhere. Yeah, let's just go.
There.
Well, and we're close to some other great areas too. You know, the Big South Fork is right there. If you're into off-roading, Brimstone, which is one of the largest in the country, off-road parks and riding. Rugby, which is a Victorian town. Brushy Mountain is about an hour away from us. So there's a whole lot in that area. I mean, we are a rural community, so it is one of those things where definitely plan ahead because there's not a lot of hotels nearby, but plan ahead and you can really plan a really cool getaway either around the jail or including the jail in your getaway stop.
Great.
Yeah, it's just, and one thing that always made me think about is why do you think that the spirits stay at the jail? You know, except, you know, I mean, if someone was incarcerated there, it's per se not a happy time, but yet the spirits stay there.
You know, for us, I think what we found that it's a variety of factors. You know, I do think that the energy that the sandstone holds, the energy that the water brings, because like I said, right behind us is a river that runs through there. So I think it really just kind of makes almost like a perfect mix of spiritual activity that remains there. And I think that there's some that just their story was kind of ended there, right? Jerome Boyett, R.D. Ellis, his story kind of ended there. We have several other inmates that were lynched from there. We have several inmates who were killed by the state. They were hung by the state from the hanging tree. That was about a quarter of a mile from the jail. So we have 14 of those. We have deputies that were killed in the line of duty. We've got 15 of those throughout the history. They were killed in the line of duty, and they were associated with it. So I just think it's kind of a perfect mix. And I think, a lot of paranormal investigators talk about the fact that we're acknowledging them and we're talking to them. And I think that kind of allows them an outlet to communicate with us. And I think that's really one of the reasons why that we do have a pretty good paranormal punch in that little jail.
Yeah. And I think you both going in with a high amount of respect when you're in a prison situation, that's very I don't know the word that I went for it, but important to prisoners is the level of respect that they get either from the guards or the other prisoners. So you guys, just not going in there and saying, do this and show yourself, like you're going in respectfully and
and we really did. Christy mentioned there in the very beginning, we really did take a lot of time out of the very beginning when we would be working in there to really introduce ourselves, explain what we were doing, explain what our intentions were. And I mean, really even not just actively investigating, but really sitting down and just sharing what our goals were with it. And, I think that actually went a long ways for in this process, because again, from the beginning, I had experienced activity there, but whenever, when we took on this venture, it was very scary in the sense of, what if they don't want to react? What if they don't want to interact with people? And so we know they're there. We've experienced it, but we just didn't know. And so we wanted to make sure that it was one of those things. I mean, I think we at least spent about 3 weeks just talking to them and just doing that. And then we started with the investigations and really explaining what we were doing. And it's almost to the point now, because again, on the flashlight tours, we don't actively investigate, but we will do a little session kind of in a way to sort of advertise the public ghost hunts. Yeah. And so they've gotten to the point to where, we've learned that they really like Christian music inside this one cell. And so, and some of that could come from Sheriff Ellis, who was a Baptist preacher, or it could come from the fact that religion is something that is super important in this area. And so we play music for them a lot. We found some of the things that they like, and it's almost like when they see us, they know what we're going to do. And before we even have to really ask, they'll start lighting K2s up, start turning flashlights on. And then as soon as we start playing music, I mean, they'll go to the beat. They'll, on command, you can ask them to light a K2 over here and then skip the K2 in the meter and light it up on the side. I mean, it's like they look forward to like, oh my gosh, they're going to play some music for us.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Bring in a disco ball next time.
There you go. And the interesting thing, and to your point, Jen, these were individuals. Obviously, they were inmates. They were there for a reason, and they committed a crime. But at no point have we ever felt anything malicious or negative or threatening. It's all been, in my mind, about communication. We did have one team that came in. They were very respectful, but they did have a criminal justice background, a corrections officer background. So that's the team that came in, and they were fortunate enough to capture the picture falling off the wall. It's a great piece of evidence. It has several factors inside that piece of evidence. You've got a shadow figure, an orb, and the picture flying off. And they captured an EVP before that, but that wasn't, in our minds, anything that was threatening. It was just like, you asked us to show you something, and here it is. And that seems to be what we get across the board. There was one time when we had a team come in and they were actually using a portal in the drunk tank area that Miranda was talking about. And where our office is, where we sit, I was able to hear the portal going off and the guy asking the questions. And then there was also another investigator in our museum room, which is across the hall. And so I was hearing the portal, and it was responding to actually things that I was doing. So I had just finished eating a sandwich, and now the investigators had no way of knowing this. I had just finished eating a sandwich, and I had gotten up to throw the garbage away, and it happened to be a turkey sandwich, and I heard the portal say turkey. And so the investigator was like, "What? Why are you saying turkey? There's no turkey here." And then at the same time, his investigator in the other room dropped his K2 meter, and he said the investigator said, "Oh no," and the portal said, "Oh yes." And so I was able to tell him, listen, I think there's a correlation going on here. You guys can't hear it, but I did. And I think that you may have something. So again, extremely intelligent responses to what we're doing throughout the jail.
Yeah. I mean, we've got one section on our second story that talks more about some of the legends and stuff, about Jesse James coming to the area, the story of the Helenwood Devil, and those sort of items up there. And one team, they were getting on their Nautilus. They kept getting devil. They got it about 3 times. And as they were sitting there, of course, they had come down, and some teams, will talk to you while you're in the office. Others, they go investigate. You don't hear from them until the very end. But they had come in and they were talking about it, and they said, we kept getting the word devil, and we thought, okay, where is this going? And they turned around and realized they were sitting under this giant 72-inch poster of the Helenwood Devil that we have sitting there.
Oh, okay.
So it's interesting because we've had them where they'll say, one is in one of the trustees' rooms, because what we're doing is we're putting up articles that are about true crime in the area. And so we're lining the walls inside of the trustee cells with these. And so that the team the night before had actually gotten a thing that was saying, it said read, press release, news. And so they realized at that point, we need to read some of these articles. And so they started reading this one article, and they were getting words from the article before they were reading it. They were getting murder, rape, capital. And it just so happened that this actual murder happened in this little area known as Capitol Hill, which is not far from the jail. And so, so they were getting all of this. Well, that very weekend, because Christy and I, we will go in, and about every night after we close up, we'll go up and investigate for, might be 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever. Well, we went up because we wanted to kind of check out that story. And so we started reading that story, and the lady's name was Rhonda Bird. And so Christy says, "Did you know Rhonda Bird?" And as soon as she said that, we heard this, and captured it on, because we were recording it while we did it. We captured a male's voice that said, "I knew her." And it sounded like it was coming from outside on the stairwell. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of that, based on those articles.
Yeah.
Sounds like the stairwell is pretty active.
It is. And that's one of the reports that the former deputies and jailers were talking about, that even when it was an operation, they would hear such loud commotion on the stairwells at night that they thought the inmates were trying to escape. So they would call an emergency head count and find that all of the inmates were where they were supposed to be. So there were a lot of deputies that have told us that they're creeped out by the stairwells. We do have an elevator inside the jail, but it has not been in operation until since 2008. Mm-hmm. But we had dispatchers come in and say, we would hear that elevator move on the phone. Yeah. When it was in operation, we had one come in and said that she had gotten into the elevator one night by herself, and she was going up to the second floor, and a man coughed in her ear, and she was the only one in the elevator, and she never rode the elevator again. So again, those stories from when it was in operation are extremely fascinating to us. Mm-hmm. But to be able, to Miranda's point, take those stories and really couple them with the historical perspective, to us is extremely fascinating, because it's almost like a validation of, yes, these things are here and they've happened, and they're associated with these stories that we're trying to tell.
Mm-hmm. And there's so many, I think we could probably investigate for several hours every single night of the year and not even be able to cover half of the stories that was going on during this century existence of the jail, just because so many people were in and out. And even if somebody was in there multiple times, their story may be different each time. So yeah, we're definitely really excited and thrilled by the stuff that the different investigators have been capturing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're just scratching the surface right now.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I think it's
We
just
are.
going to gets greater later. So I think it's going to be amazing. And wait till we get down there. Who knows what's going to
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome.
I see a full body apparition.
I just want to sit up on the third floor alone and listen.
Yeah.
Because we go on a lot of investigations, and I never get to just sit somewhere and listen without other people in the building.
Mhm.
And being a small building, you'd be able to hear the activity that goes on all around you.
We do.
You can, yeah. You hear stuff. We've had one of the constant claims from different investigators as kind of a cat and mouse approach is that, different people have said, that they'll be somewhere, they'll experience something, they'll go to kind of check it out, and it's like it either moves or they can tell something's kind of observing and watching them and doing something kind of on the outskirts of where they're at. We do get a lot of stuff like that. You'll hear stuff down on the second floor. Shadow figures. Mm-hmm. There has been a lot of shadow figures up on the third floor as well as on the second floor. A lot of disembodied voices in this location. Doors moving on their own. Just a wide variety of activity that different people have experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Very active location. Very.
Yeah.
And
So exciting.
and special. I mean,
It is.
It's
unique.
I know I've mentioned this before, but it blew my mind when I actually saw the videos and the pictures of it, that it was so clean.
Well, try, when you're dealing with somebody like Miranda, nothing hits the floor and stays there for more than 10 minutes.
Well, part of my thinking on that is we've all investigated a lot of different locations, and you really want to keep that rustic feel and everything.
Yeah.
But when sweeping, cleaning goes a long ways in trying to cut down on some of that extra contamination. As far as you don't see a lot of dust orbs. You don't see a lot there. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't see a lot of that. And a lot of that I feel like comes from the fact that we do clean. And it's a comfortable environment. We encourage people, come check it out in the wintertime because we are climate controlled. And
nice.
we got heat there, and a lot of people do choose to turn it off because all three of them are on different cycles. But warm it up, and you can come and investigate. We got working restrooms, so
outlets everywhere.
Yeah, it's
haunted restrooms.
Let me tell you,
right. Yeah.
Tell you how many places Joe and I have gone to and investigated, and there's no heat, and it's the middle of winter. There's no restrooms. You got to drive down to the carry out down the street. And that
it doesn't have to be
that so much.
It doesn't have to be filthy dirty to be haunted.
Yeah,
that's right.
Well, exactly. And if you come from it from our standpoint, where we're really trying to drive the historical narrative as well, that does go a long way when we have visitors who aren't into the paranormal. But the interesting thing is when we have people come in and they're coming in to see the historical aspect of it, almost to a person, everyone has come downstairs and said, okay, so just curious, is it haunted? And so that starts the dialogue with the paranormal, right? So for us to be able to show the history first and then move into the paranormal aspect of it and what we're capturing and what our paranormal teams are capturing, that to us is really how we wanted this to work. We wanted the history to be the driving factor, and then the paranormal, while to be honest, it's supporting us and keeping the lights on, it's driven, all of this is driven by the historical narrative first.
Yeah, and if we can, we can't really say a whole lot about it, but if we can kind of briefly talk about something really cool that we've got coming up, we have time for that?
Oh, yeah, heck yeah.
Of course.
Okay, so we can't really say a whole lot because we're going to actually make a formal announcement about it probably here.
You're teasing us now, right?
Yeah, we're thinking here probably toward the end of the week, but we actually have a really cool thing that we're about to embark on that personally for myself, I haven't seen any other locations doing anything like this.
Mhm.
I know a lot of different locations are research centers and do a lot of different things, but what we're about to do is we're working with a former detective, and we are actually taking ourselves out of the equation of this project that we're doing. And so we're still trying to formulate the rules of it, because we're being really particular about the rules of it, because we want to make sure that we take every little element out of it, of any type of contamination.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm talking kind of cryptically here.
That's okay. We love it.
Yeah.
All day
No, go
long.
ahead.
It's something where we've never, to Miranda's point, we've never seen an experiment like this where there is absolutely no bias. It's going to be, and we're, like I said, Miranda said, we're going to have rules on how this is going to work. And paranormal investigators, if they want to participate, they're going to have to, agree to abide by these rules. But in our mind, it is actually the truest type of paranormal research that we can think of. So it's going to be very exciting. I think a lot of paranormal investigators will get behind it. And if the results really come to fruition as we think they may, it's going to be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Because it's not something that we're going to really allow anybody on, a daytime tour or whatever to come in. We're really looking for investigators that are interested in true paranormal research, not the jump out and scare you, thrill seeking sort of thing.
Right.
So true researchers, mediums, psychics, that sort of thing. Because we believe if this works out how we think it's going to, we could really get some really cool answers to some of these stories that we're putting out there. So we're real excited, and it's something that's going to go. It's going to be for investigators next year. It's going to start in January, and we're still determining the time frame, how long it's going to be, but we'll be making that announcement on Sunday, and we're really. I want to say so much.
I know, me too.
I don't. I'm not sure what I can say.
We're going to teach coming up to it. We're going to teach coming up to it. Yeah. So, we're hoping to shoot for a Sunday announcement. So we're going to get on live and really talk about it. We'll be at the jail when we do this, and really kind of talk about what we're doing and how it's going to be structured. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I am so excited to get this started and really see where it goes.
Yeah. Because let me just say this, Christy and I we don't even know the whole scope of this. And we wanted to make sure that is, that's something that's important to take that element out.
To keep the bias out. Yeah.
Great.
And on top of that, if anybody's just driving through the area, you have the museum, and the museum is going to change all the time. There's different items coming in, coming out. So, and who knows, there might be some haunted items in there too.
And see, that's the thing, right? So we have, when we first started this, we asked for different things. Damian Christie from RKB Paranormal, he donated a hat from his friend who was killed in the line of duty. So we have that. We've got shanks and shivs from our jail, from Brushy, from different prisons in the state of Tennessee. We've got different artifacts that belong to law enforcement officers. We've got patches from different agencies across the country. We just got the things from the TBI today. So it's changing all the time. It's increasing all the time. And we're just super excited about this. And then also, our ghost walks. We've started it for Christmas. As Miranda said, this is going to be a 2-hour walk that really highlights the historical narrative of the town, of the county, of the jail. And while we've got it Christmas centered right now, it is something that we're going to continue through the year. So we're really excited about that. We've got so many things to offer. We just really want the community to get behind us and get involved with this.
Yeah, we're going to be having in 2 weeks. We're going to be having the author that wrote the book High Winds. We'll actually be making that announcement and creating that event tomorrow. He's going to be there doing a book signing. I mean, we're so excited because he's written this book about the events that are centered at the jail. And so he's going to be there signing books and sharing the real story about all of this. So we're looking to have different events like that, have authors in, have people who work in law enforcement, even some inmates who spent time in here. We're looking at having different events where the community can come in and listen to these people talk.
Yeah.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so we're really trying to make it a whole experience. Like I said, if you're not into the paranormal, we do have something that you're going to enjoy just with some of the different things that we're trying to do throughout the year.
Yeah.
Where can everybody go to find out more information?
So our website is www.historicscottcojail.com. We're also very active on Facebook under the Historic Scott County Jail. You can contact us on those. Our website is the best place to reach us. That has our hours of operation. It also has our phone number. Our gift shop items are on there as well. So Miranda's done an amazing job of really putting together a very classy and professional looking website. So go check that out, please, and really just kind of see what we have to offer. And then come on down to Tennessee and visit us.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everybody
I'm
get in
coming
their car,
down there. I am coming
get
down.
in your new cars, and drive down today.
Exactly.
I'm actually putting that link here in the
Yes.
comment, just so
Yeah.
there we go.
But we just can't thank you enough for supporting us, Jen and Joe, but everybody in the chat room as well. We've got such great fans out there, such great supporters. Just for the Historic Scott County Jail, but also for Ghost Biker Explorations
Yeah.
and Soul Sisters Paranormal, because we still have those teams. They're separate teams, but we've come together for this, and so just a lot of enthusiasm for what we're doing, and we just can't thank you enough for everybody who's out there supporting us in this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it takes a village, right?
Oh, it does.
It really does.
It does. With this, it does.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we want to thank you for
Thank
coming
you
on.
so
Thank you,
much.
guys.
Enjoyed it so much.
Appreciate it. And you're welcome back to the show anytime you have new and exciting announcements about the jail. You come back and see us.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right,
come
well,
back.
Thank you.
Everybody watch on Sunday. We'll be making an announcement on Sunday as well. So you guys have to check that out.
Yeah, go follow the Historic Scott County Jail Facebook page, because that's where we will be live at, and probably be having some announcements soon here at the first of the year about our little podcast show we're going to do there from the jail. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, check that out, and make sure you're one of the first to get booked for our research project.
2022.
That's right.
Yeah.
Tell them 222 sent you.
Yeah.
Ah, there you
That's
go. There you
That's
go.
And we want to thank everybody for listening this week. Hope you enjoyed it.
It was an amazing show.
I'm having a blast.
I know. So good. And we will see you in Tennessee, everybody.
Yes.
Take care.
Thank you all.
Great week, and thank you so much.
And let's leave with some Dead and Five. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye now.
Can you see the end when you look through my eyes? How long's it been? Shouldn't come as a surprise. Got my feet all wet. Jumped in head first. Myself tight. Feelings gone and never heard. I feel nothing for you. I feel nothing for you. Yeah, it's time.
This is not Dead and Five. This is 60 Second Crush.
60 Second Crush. Out of Detroit. Woo, rock and roll.
All right, the recorder is off, but we are still live
We're still live.
on Facebook. Thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you so
Gals, I
much.
should say. So,
Love it.
yeah, we got to get down there. I know we talk about it many, many times, but we got to get down there.
We will let you know
And
when we're on the road.
I want to thank everybody
We'll bring
for
snacks.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for going in the chat room and saying chat stuff. And
Yes.
our sister
appreciate
coming
it.
in there saying
Yeah.
hi, Ferd. See,
That's my
people-
nickname.
yeah,
Nobody
Jennifer.
knows.
So they always called her Ferd growing
Ferd.
up. I don't know. So, anyways, thank you, Facebook land.
Yes.
We're going to end the
everybody.
broadcast now. But we just want to say thank you for joining in with
And
Miranda and Christy from
book
Scott
your-
County Jail.
Investigations now,
Yes.
because it will
Yeah.
fill up very quickly and you will miss out. So get on their website and do it right now. This very moment.
Thanks, Jen.
Yes, thank you all so much.
Yeah,
We-
thanks
we
everybody. We really
everything.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Uh,